You're listening to The Table Talk with your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Light. Tune in every other Thursday starting at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with me and a new special guest live on Facebook and Twitch. Without further ado, let's start the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Table Talk. This is episode 28, and we are live tonight doing this episode. I'm glad to be back live. I love interacting with you guys during the show, and our last episode, we did a previously recorded episode, which was very fun, and, I was able to do a couple different things with it of, promoting, but I love being able to react with everybody in real time, and I got an awesome guest for you guys tonight. It's one of my good buddies. We haven't talked in a while, but we had a lot of fun times playing at some open jams a couple years ago, and I'm stoked to talk to him. We had a little conversation last night, and just talking about some old times and everything. And if you guys want to check out some of that bonus footage that's going to be coming live right after the taping of this episode tonight, and if you're watching later, this will already be out, but you can go to the Patreon page and become a Patreon today, going to patreon.com/table_talk. I love my community over there, and I want to give a shout out to Bernadette, David, and Mary, who have been very supportive in the private community over there on Patreon. And if you guys want to join tonight, feel free to go to the link that's in the description, or if you're watching later, go find it right. It's usually in the description of the episodes, so feel free. I would love to have you guys join the private community. You guys get access to, updates for the episodes, who's coming in weeks to come. You'll be getting bonus footage after the episodes. You'll get video downloads and some private live streams that I just started putting in. So we're going to be getting very close to doing some private live streams of talking about old episodes, maybe even some music live streams for you guys personally. So, feel free to check that out. There's 3 tiers, and would love for you guys to check that out. And for those who are watching at a later time, you guys make sure to check out the episodes on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you're, giving us a review, following and subscribing. It helps out the channel, helps out the podcast a lot. Thank you for everybody who has been supporting the channel since day one. So, without further ado, everybody, let's get in our special guest tonight, Mr. Tim Jones. What's up, my man? How you doing?
What's up, everybody? How are you?
Good, man. Glad to have you on here. It's been a while.
It is an honor and a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. And I was stoked to, for you to be saying that you wanted to, ask me for so long, and then it just took me like, hey, I need a couple people, and I know Tim's been, I've always had a good connection with guitars with him, and I'm like, dude, I got to have him on the show. We got to talk guitars. We got to talk music. And I know we like a lot of the same types of music, so I had to get you on here, and do some music talk and see what's going on in that brain of yours, man.
Like I said, it was honestly like a great surprise when you would reach out and was like, hey, do you want to be on? Because I was like, what? I wanted to be on anyway. So it was a great feeling of being like, oh my God, people think I'm dope. People that I look up to musically think I'm dope.
There you go, man.
That was a really cool feeling.
That's the best feelings, like when you have people that come to you that, like you said, that actually you feel that they're like at another level than you, but then they come to you and you're like, wow, like I feel important,
That's really how it made me feel, honestly.
Yeah, man. So for those who are watching, why don't you give everybody a little background to who you are?
So for those who are watching, my name is Tim Jones. I was raised in Chester, Pennsylvania, which everybody here I'm probably assuming is from Delco and knows where that is. I went to Notre Dame de Lourdes, which is a grade school in Swarthmore, and then I went to Monsignor Bonner High School. So I've been playing music since I was about 8. That's when I started playing drums.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up guitar in high school because that's what got the chicks.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that's why everybody usually goes to guitar. So for me, it was really drawing just because I remember seeing Ace Frehley and his smoking guitar, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you have smoke coming out of your pickups, and I at the time, you're a naive child, so you're like, it's real.
Yeah.
He's really playing that good. But then you grow up and you're like, oh man, the electronics behind that is genius.
Right.
So seeing that, it was like, what can I do with the guitar? So I went from being not obsessed with Kiss because their music's not all that great,
Right.
just with the guitar, and then I found Guns N' Roses, and then I found Hendrix,
Yeah.
and I found Pink Floyd, and was like,
Mind
my whole
blown.
brain just
Yeah.
exploded. So that was kind of when, back in high school, I decided, like, I don't need anything in life. I'm just going to be a rock star.
Yeah, that's the golden opportunity to be like, enough of college. I'm just gonna, rock this thing out and see where it takes me.
Exactly. That was my plan. That was literally like, I was like, I might go to college, which I did. I went to community college for a couple of years to
Yeah.
do psychology, but I actually dropped out to go on tour.
There you go. And who
So
was
it's
the
like,
band
I
that you
did go
went
to
on tour?
college. You can't do that.
And who was
I
the band
went.
you went on tour with?
In Case It Rains.
In Case It Rains. Yeah, that's with my buddy Kevin Sataris, right?
Yep, yes, sir. That was
Yeah,
the
man.
first band that I'd ever toured in, and the first band that I was like in that played shows like that. I
Mm-hmm.
was in a band before. My first band was called Sour Potatoes.
Interesting
Um,
name.
it was me and a drummer, and the only reason we formed a band was to open up for Slash because we wanted to join this competition
I
where
think
it
I
was like the
remember
best
that.
band.
I
Yeah,
think I think
well, we
I
did
slightly
that,
remember that competition. Yeah.
and I was like, all right, cool, like let's do it. And we
Yeah.
were out back in the house thinking of a name, and I was like, I'll think of an adjective, and you think of a noun. And I said sour, and he said potato. And I was like, why don't we just do potato? And he was like, nah, that's too boring. So it was funny. We used to call our fans tater tots.
Perfect.
It worked out great.
That's awesome. So you got into those bands. You did the touring and everything, and you stuck with guitar. But now you have started to run like your own company, right? Like your own, and
Yes,
you're
sir.
you're either you're managing or other artists and MCs. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Nice. And
So,
and what's that company called?
so it's called Altruistic Vision.
Uh huh.
The name came from, I don't like the word selfless because I'm really weird with words as a writer and just someone who's kind of into spirituality. Like, words to me are very important. So I didn't want to have something be called selfless vision because to me it's like you're less of self.
Right.
And altruistic is a cooler version to say selfless, basically.
Right.
And my plan and what my goals are with Altruistic Vision is eventually to become a label that doesn't treat their artists like slaves.
Right.
I had an experience where I was touring in Long Island for a while
Mm-hmm.
and kind of got to see the repercussions of being assigned to artist.
Yeah.
And it sucked. It was terrible. And I didn't want anybody to have to go through what me and my group went through.
Mm.
So I came home and was like, all right, I'm taking all of my favorite artists that I love and putting everybody together. And
That's how it
we're
all
going to
starts,
be
man.
the
Yeah.
next Wu-Tang, basically.
Yeah. And it's funny how you're talking about the labels and everything because I had a very small experience with a label. I won't put them on blast or anything, but how you were saying like they just you grow up wanting to be on a label and doing the whole I want to sell out Madison Square Garden, I want to be the big guy, but you don't realize a lot of these labels, and there are some good labels out there, but a lot of these major companies out there that give you the big contracts and everything, a lot of people don't realize you got to pay that money back once you do that album. And then you're, like you said, it's like you're a slave to the contract. And that's why unless you are a a Metallica that doesn't have to worry about being underpaid or anything. You're pretty much your own band, but like a lot of these people go in and they try to, there was one label that I was talking to and they tried to say that, you know, my image has to change, I have to do this, maybe you can be better as a country person and you'll have to drop a little bit of weight first and all this. And I'm like, dude, like, if that's what it has to take for me to get on your label, then I mean, I'm not changing my personal self to fit what you want me to do. If and you know, so it's something that just kind of blew me away from it, because there's nothing that, yeah, if you can't be you can't be your own musician, then why try to change yourself to fit, you know, somebody else's mold? Because then you're just being somebody
Exactly.
else that you're not, you know?
And that's, to me, like, so demeaning.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take someone who you're like, I love your talent, I love who you are, I love what you're doing, I love this and that all about you, and let me take that and then change it and put you to who I want you to be.
Exactly.
And it's completely unfair, and it's demeaning, belittling, and people wonder why these artists end up not wanting to do music, stop releasing music, go away from the scene, go crazy, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, and have all of these issues within themselves because they're being driven crazy. They're
Yeah.
being People don't realize how hard it is to go to the studio on a consistent basis, do all of that,
Yeah.
have a family, go to work. Because some of these artists still work jobs because if you're not touring, you're not making money. If you're not selling
Exactly.
merchandise, you're not making money. If you're not selling records, you're not making money. And
Exactly.
everything is about making money. So you
Right.
have to have all these other sources of income, which is why people like, Rihanna has her undergarment line of Fenty.
Yeah.
Kanye has Yeezy. Like, all of these people go off and do other things because the music industry just wants to, like, rip everything from you and take all of your
Yeah.
talent, your skills, and your money.
And in the end, you do understand it's a business, and people got to make money no matter what. So you understand on that aspect, but on the same level is the fact that if you, again, going back to the same points, if you have to change an artist in order to say, okay, well, if we just get him to do it this way, that's going to make us more, like, if you can't like an artist for what they're delivering to you at first, that's why a lot of, like you were saying, that's why a lot of artists these days are going independent, so they don't have to worry about a label. I mean, I still feel today you do need a label for some things, but there's
Oh,
so
I
many,
completely agree.
there are some things that you can do, like there's people on that are independent that are booking U.S. tours and they don't even have a label backing them. So we live in a world today that you don't necessarily need to you don't need to rely on it, but it still is helpful. But it's not like back in the '80s, like the big boom of, you know, the hair metal bands and all those that they
Yeah.
were down on the strip and just picking up people like one and one, saying like, all right, let's sign this person, let's sign that person. But it's not like that today. Like, it's more than they're not going to up and, you know, start looking for talent. They need talent to come to them because, you know, they're not willing to spend the money out front as much as they used to. So they want to make sure that you're going to make them money before they have to pitch out money. So
I think that it's I don't think it's a lose-lose situation when you join a label, but I think it's like you lose more than you gain because
mhm.
yeah, you have them to do all this promotion for you. They do, your A&R, your music videos, but you're paying for it anyway. So you might as well just be
Right.
independent and pay for it yourself because the only difference is all of the promotion that you're getting out. And you know, once you break it down, something I love when people talk about is numbers,
Hmm.
and they're like, "Oh, this person has so many records sold," and it's like, how many of them were bought?
Right.
Like, you can't judge a person on numbers anymore. You can't really focus on the things that the labels are supposed to be here for.
Hmm.
Like, I remember one of my favorite lines in Redman's song is, "How can you be hot when you paid for your billboard spot?"
Mm.
And that for me was like one of the biggest, like, oh man, people actually do that. Like, record companies will go to radio stations and be like, here's a list of all the songs that we want you to play,
Yeah.
and from this time to this time you're going to play this, from this time to this time you're going to play this, you're going to play this song this many amount of times, here's a stack of money.
Right.
And it's so controlled that luckily now we're in an age where we have streaming services to where we can do our own distribution. We've
Yes.
taken back everything that they have been taking from us for years.
And then now you got to worry about the streaming services that are taking money from the artists now too. So it's like not
Yeah, well,
not only the labels, but now
it's a
I
lose-lose.
gotta get my .006 out of this one stream.
It's
It's
like
crazy
baffling
when
to
you see
me.
those numbers, and like to an outsider that's like saying like, oh well, you must be making a lot of money on the streaming services and stuff, because I mean you're getting, well, I mean you'd have to probably get a couple thousand streams to probably make $100 off of Spotify or anything. And I think Apple Music pays a little bit more, but even then, I mean,
I know.
that's, I think that's the next thing that's going to eventually get into the circle of like the streaming services, hopefully gaining a little respect back to the artists, that they are making them so much money, but then we're getting so little back in return. Like if it wasn't for us, your platform will be nothing. So, to the
And that,
artist, it should be more
yeah,
like, okay, we should be respecting more of the artists that are making us this money, so.
it baffles me that the world takes entertainment for granted
Mhm.
because music is everywhere.
Yeah,
Your movies, your TV shows, your car, your stores, everything has music. But
right.
people want to be like, "Oh, music isn't a real job. We don't have to take care of the artist. We don't have to worry about them."
Yeah,
Like, we're supplying you constant entertainment. Every form of entertainment
yeah.
has music in it, with the exception of physical art.
Just because you don't wake up and go to a 9 to 5, it is literally a 9 to 5. It's literally a 24/7 job in a way, because especially if you
Exactly.
are the independent artist, you're worrying about, making the music, promoting the music, playing the gigs, preparing to the gigs. And then you're worrying about, the financial and the business side of it. You're everything if you don't have extra help with certain services and stuff. But like it is like a 24/7 job. But to the outside person that doesn't see the fact that like, oh well, I mean, if you're not going getting up for work, driving 20 miles to go to a job that you are like 50/50 about, like I said, I mean, I'm blessed to work at a company that I love, and I went to school for, and I love what I do, and I'm blessed to actually be able to do music actually as a second part time that I felt now. Like it used to always just be like a hobby, but now I feel like I've gotten to the level of I can pretty much consider it as almost like a part time thing for me right now. That music has become a part time job of myself, and I put a lot of time into it, and it's one of those things where if people don't see the ins and outs of it, if they see more of like the behind the scenes of what a lot of these musicians go through, they're like, okay, now I see. You just see the person up on stage for for an hour or two, and that's all you see. Like you don't see the prep time of like the months and months of booking those tours and
The
preparing for the tours
rehearsals.
and the rehearsals and everything. It's when it comes down to it's all the in perspective of what you see. Sometimes you're only like seeing one dimensional when you're not seeing the full picture behind it.
See, like, if you ask my artist when it's like becoming showtime, that's the moment when they hate me because I run what we call Hell Week,
Uh huh.
where the week before a show, we have rehearsal every night.
Mm.
And we go through everybody's set, we go through sometimes we go through everybody's choreography. We're going to go through everybody's crowd interaction chants, what you're going to say in between
Uh
each
huh.
song. Like, we go hard.
So you're very particular with like like choreography, getting down every little aspect of the show. Like you said, you put on a performance and like an entertainment show before actually
Yeah.
thinking about it. It's a music show, but you're making sure you're entertaining people at the same time.
Yeah, because that's our job as artists. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, as an artist, we're supposed to create and be authentically ourselves and, produce that and give that to the world. But at the same time, the world's coming to see us. So we need to make sure that we give them a good show.
Absolutely, man. I
So
totally
it's like,
agree.
we're not keen to, where the girls. So I have four artists. There's myself, Charisma, who's one of my singers and an MC,
Uh huh.
Sykes, who is an MC, and then Courage, who is a singer.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to charisma and courage, they don't have to, dance a specific way or dress a specific way, because I'm not about that
Yeah.
stuff. I really don't like when. So something I'm really like against is misogyny in the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how the music industry objectifies women, and I find it unfair that women have to go out and, dress a specific way for somebody to come listen to their music.
It's just like, with a lot of the artists that are out there. I mean, I think the biggest controversial things out there, like the Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B doing all their stuff, like, I think they can be good artists on themselves, but, let's call it sex sells,
Yeah,
So,
and that's completely okay. I love the fact that sex sells, because to me, like, that's women taking the power back. Like, it's like, you're gonna go sell your body, you're strong as shit. That's
right. I mean,
cool on you.
if
I cannot do that.
if that's
Like,
what
I'm too
if that's what
awkward.
you're comfortable with, then, like, again, there comes a time where, if you have that, type of personality that you don't care what people think and this is you, then hey, be my guest. But obviously, in this day and age, with everybody being on the internet, everybody's gonna have an opinion about,
Everybody will find
and
out.
just even if not, everybody's not. We're artists. Not everybody's gonna like you. You're gonna get people that are be like, you know what, this is not my style. Then you're like, okay, cool. Then just, slide off. Let the next person come. But there's always those couple people that are gonna give you that negativity. But it's up to you to kind of just keep looking at the positives of what people are interacting with you.
And it's
So,
like, it's so oversaturated, it's overused, and like, it goes for both people like Megan and people like DaBaby and people like something. I, as a hip hop artist, like as an MC, I'm constantly in hip hop debates. And when people ask me, I'm old school as shit. I'm what they call a conscious rapper.
uh-huh.
Like, to me, when I think hip hop, I think of the acronym Higher Infinite Power Healing Our People. So,
Okay.
like, I make hip hop to raise the vibrations and express my creativity in with some crazy ass rhyme schemes, but in a way to uplift people. Like, you're not gonna hear me talking about money, cars, and clothes unless I'm doing it ironically, making fun of somebody.
Yeah.
And, like, if I eventually make it big, like, yeah, once I start buying nice cars, I'm gonna rap about my nice cars.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm gonna be like, hey, everything that I did on that first album telling you to do, you now go do, and you can have a nice car too.
Right.
So it's like, I don't like that boastful, like, weird shit. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes a trap song comes on and I'm like, hey, that's a dope beat. But if it's not lyrical and full of substance, I really don't care about it.
Right.
So
Yeah,
when, Megan drops something like, I think the song's called like That Shit. Like, it's a dope song. Megan got bars. It's a dope beat. But it's not something I'm going to listen to.
Right.
And
I kind of feel the same way with you. Like, I'm not a fan of today's, rap and hip hop, because like you said, I feel that they don't talk about anything. There's maybe one or two people that, I listen to, Drake, even though Drake has kind of gotten a little bit stale, but there's been like one or two. I've just started getting a little bit more into Post Malone and all those. I mean, he has a couple good things there, but like I'll always go back to like the early '90s hip hop, the Biggies, the Tupacs. They were saying stuff, and they weren't just, like you said, they weren't just talking about things that they necessarily wish they had, but they're talking about the struggles that they went through in their hometowns, and talking about the upbringings they had. Like, they were talking about real stuff, where now I feel it's like you're just saying stuff to say that, but you don't really live that type of lifestyle, and you're just you're living off of a lie. I can't really say that about everybody. If there's people watching, and please don't hate on it. I mean, I'm just giving my total opinion. But
people are gonna hate on me when I start talking hip hop, because I get so passionate, and I'm like an anomaly, whatever they want to call it.
Uh-huh.
I'm very specific with like everything about hip hop. I'm like, if your rhyme schemes aren't dope, if you have whack lyrics in more than 10 songs, like I'm so specific with my hip hop and what I listen to just because of like my beliefs of like words or spells, and I don't want to say the wrong thing and speak the wrong thing into the universe.
Yeah.
So it's like I only really listen to like I'm gonna say so from 80 like 6 to like 2000
Uh-huh.
is what I mainly listen to. And then obviously because I was growing up in the 2000s, I love things like 50 Cent and
Yeah.
Lil Jon just because I was growing up and it was like, yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, oh man. Oh, that's what I was listening to. That's
That
what he was
seems like a
saying.
good like 86 to
That's what
like early
speech means.
2000s. That kind of seems like a good decade of, type of stuff. And I think I like because I was born in 86, so I mean I didn't really start listening to a lot of music until I mean obviously my upbringings were the 90s, so a lot of 90s music was all everything I grew up with. But I feel 86 to like early 2000s, maybe cut it off at like 2010 maybe if anything.
Yeah,
But
I can cut it off then because Kanye dropped 808s and Heartbreak in '08
uh-huh.
and dropped My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in 2010. Yeah, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I know
like
you're a big Kanye fan.
I
I've seen a lot of your
hate
posts. Like
Kanye.
you go hard on defending
I do.
Kanye. and
Kanye,
here's the thing. I'm
Wu-Tang.
on the opposite. I've never been a Kanye fan. I mean, I know I like him as a musician. But when he goes on and says I'm a genius, I'm like, dude, stop. I mean, I never liked when people kind of have to tell other people that they're a genius, where like when it coming up to like people like the Hendrixes and the Pink Floyds, when they never had to say it,
They're
people
so
said it
humble.
for them. And
Mm-hmm.
when they get those type of reactions from people, they're like, stop, I'm just a regular person. They don't have to like preach it, like thank you for the compliment, but that's not me, because with a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
hate.
Hendrix's backstage, he just wanted to get his message out there and try to change something. He didn't really care about the fame. He didn't care about how many records he sold. He just wanted to make sure that his message was spreading to those people.
Yeah, and it's like I hate when people are like, "Oh my God, you're so good," because I'm like, "Stop, stop!" Like I'm already like when I'm in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the shit," but like outside, I'm so like such a
Right.
shy, nervous person that I'm just like, "Don't tell me I'm great." Like,
Like,
please
I
don't.
appreciate it,
I
but I
don't need
mean,
it.
hey, I'm always the same way when it comes to like gigs. Like, I'll come off stage, like I know I had like a bad set, and somebody comes up to me like, dude, you were awesome tonight. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm
Why are
okay,
you
thanks.
lying to me?
I'm okay. And the only
Like
person that
that's
knows when I
me.
have a bad set is my wife. Like she knows my facial expressions when I'm just having a bad set, and she'll like talk to somebody like. I just tell by the reactions on his face he just messed up something. Like nobody
Yeah,
else
that's
will
my
notice it,
girlfriend.
but she'll notice it. She's the only one that could probably
So
notice
like,
when I'm like not having like a good time, like something's going wrong on my pedal board, or I'm not getting the tone that I'm wanting. Like so, it's I've had a lot of those times, and it's just like you can't get it right, and you're just like, ugh.
not getting the tone you want on stage
It's
is
the
the
worst.
worst feeling ever.
It is. It really is.
Like I've had a lot of mishaps on stage. I've messed up lyrics. I've tripped. I've like fallen off the actual stage.
Oh jeez.
I've tripped on my wire and had the cord come out, and you just hear the.
Yeah.
Nothing was more upsetting to me than when I went to play "Sweet Child O' Mine" at an open jam, and my tone didn't match because nobody wanted to tune down a half step, and everybody just wanted to play the song.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, come on, it's half step down. Like, we have to play it half step down or it's going to sound weird. And they're like, no,
It's
no, no,
fine.
no. And I'm
It's
like,
just like a semitone. Don't worry about it.
and then we played it and I'm like, oh, yeah, now you're straining your voice, buddy.
Yeah.
You're hurting.
And that's
You're
half the
hurting,
reason
aren't
why
you?
a lot of people play in E flat and not standard. Also, and when I was playing, I used to play in standard a lot until I'm like, yeah, I mean, my voice sounds so much better when I'm in E flat. And it's a very small change, but it makes your voice sound so much better. And like you said, you're not straining as much. You don't feel like you're straining as much.
So relaxing.
And especially on a Strat, I mean, everybody always says, and I definitely agree, tuning a Strat down to E flat makes it sound so much more better than playing in the standard.
I love Strats. I used to grow up hating Fenders because of Slash only playing Les Pauls. And I was like, no, like, Strats are ugly, Telecasters suck. And then I grew up.
Yeah.
And I played a Telecaster.
And then you actually played one, you're like, what was I talking about? Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, like, I'm very sorry, Fender.
I felt so bad for, like, all of the guitarists that I made fun of in my life. Because, like, you know how you have those friends who are musicians, and they play their specifics, and you play yours, and you're like, well, I'm better than you because I play a Les Paul. And they're like, well, I sound better than you because I have the Fender. And I'm like, well, my Epiphone sounds better than your Fender because I'm playing it. And it's like things like that where I'm just like,
yeah.
And his Fender really did sound better than my Epiphone.
Yeah, I remember having those type of, arguments when I was in my teenage years. We all thought we were the shit and just like, like my band's better than yours. Well, our sound is a lot heavier. And you grow up and you're like, we didn't really play that great. We still sucked. I mean, we just sucked really good. Our amount of sucking just sounded good to us.
My band Sour Potatoes won a Battle of the Bands at the Trocadero. We got 4th place without a singer, and we just played like jazz, rock, blues, instrumental. Like, it was weird. We were really fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I don't know how we got 4th place. Because I listened to those recordings, and we sucked. Like, we didn't suck, but to me, like, I'm like, oh my god, that was terrible. Like, I can hear me messing up in the guitar solos. I can hear, like, we had this one song where I played slide the entire song. And I can hear me messing up the slide and going too high or going too low, and I'm like, do people not hear that?
Isn't it crazy when you're on stage, it sounds so much better, but then you go back and you listen to a recording, like, was my guitar out of tune the whole time? Like, I thought I tuned it before I played that song.
Yeah, and it's just like, do people really care about the music, or are they just there jamming? Because it's like,
right.
I know there's times where I have done terrible,
mm-hmm.
like, messed up entire guitar solos, messed up songs, and people will still come up to me and be like, that was awesome! And I'm like, you're lying.
And that's the same thing with a lot of the cover gigs. Like, I think a lot of people don't care how it sounds. As long as you hit that one note in that famous song, they're good. Or if you hit that one guitar note in, like, one of those, top 50 Billboard greatest all-time hits and stuff, as long as they hear that one little spot in a song, they don't care if you mess up the whole thing. As long as you get that one little note, people are like, dude, you're awesome. And I mean, half of them are, had like 3-4 beers in, so anything kind of sounds good at that point.
That's true.
But I've come to the point where, we've both played in original bands before, and it's such a different mindset when you're up there with an original band. When I first started playing cover gigs, I was just coming out of playing in original bands, and when you get done a song, when you hear that audience chant and clap and everything, that lets you know, okay, they like it. You're doing good. I played my first, cover show, maybe 1 or 2, and I get done songs, crickets. And I'm just like,
it's so
am I bombing this? But then I started, talking to a lot of peers around the scene, and like, dude, you just got to realize you're a jukebox to these people. If you're going out to think that you're going to get standing ovations after every song then this is not for you. You may get 1 or 2 times where people are listening. You're like, oh, that's awesome. Here, claps, really good. But you're not going to get like standing ovations like you would expect, like at like, a big arena or something. That's never going to happen unless you are, a big time musician coming to a local bar out of nowhere. Then you're going to get that type of respect. But so it took me a couple times to really realize, after I get done a song, I'd say, thanks, this song was that. You get right into the next one. And unless you get a couple claps, you're like, oh, thank you, blah blah blah, then you go right into the next one. So it's been kind of like my mentality of like not expecting that type of thing, but when I do, it's like, oh, okay, cool. At least I can kind of feel the crowd, and I'm still learning how to feel out a crowd, because like knowing, what people are digging. If I'm playing this type of music, then I know, okay, stick with this type of thing for, at least the next couple songs, and then try to switch it up and see how they feel. And then it's always kind of like playing to the crowd a little bit. So it's always something new every time I'm playing.
I'm so terrible at playing to a crowd because I'll get into my music and I just start feeling myself. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, F everybody else. Like, I'm feeling great right now.
I've done that too.
I remember there was actually this one show where I performed, and I'm what my friends called flamboyant with the F word. And there was kids at the show, and I didn't know. Oh, jeez. So I'm doing my performance, and I have, like, specific crowd chants. Like, when I'm performing, sometimes I like to pay homage to the MCs that inspired me.
Uh-huh.
So during one of my songs called Hustle Huntin', I break it down, because I perform with a band, so I have time to, like, break down and do crowd chants and crowd interaction.
Nice.
And in the middle of the song, I do a crowd chant, which is from Redman's song, How to Roll a Blunt.
Uh-huh.
And it's him saying, I'm high as F, and I'm F'd up.
Uh-huh.
So I'm saying that, like, and getting the crowd
as, like, to say that. These kids are like...
Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't know, because I didn't read the crowd.
You're in the moment.
I wasn't paying attention to these kids, and I'm just F this, F that, like, F the government, like, I'm going crazy. And the host gets up and is like, well, Tim just said F those kids respectfully. And I'm like, kids? There was kids?
Hey, my kids, like...
Yeah, like, I'm sorry you brought your kids to a rap show, like,
right,
if you're not going to get money,
they ain't Will Smith up here, like. But I want to give a shout out to everybody who's been in the chat tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in so far. If you guys are new to the show, this is Table Talk. I'm your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life. Tonight I am with my good friend Tim Jones, who is joining me on the air tonight. And if you guys are watching later on, make sure to give this podcast a follow, subscribe, give us a rate on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate all the support here. And Tim, I want to ask you, so coming from a guitar player's aspect, and you already had that lineage of being an MC, a rapper. What made you want to I know you said you had like somewhat of an injury that you couldn't, and you gave up a little bit of guitar, and then so what kind of made you start going into like the MC hip hop realm, and what made you want to start the agency you have right now? I know you're saying you wanted to, like, with what you were talking about of, you've seen all these big labels or labels in general that are treating people not so pleasantly, and you wanted to, flip that and, have something that you're taking care of these people instead of treating them like, a slave. So you're kind of putting them in their own aspects. So, but like, is there any more aspects that came about that made you really inspired to want to start this?
So, I've always had a huge love for hip hop since I was a young kid. I remember, like, I grew up in Chester, so some people consider that the hood.
Yeah.
I don't, because I grew up there, and I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad, but I'm just desensitized.
Right.
So, like, I grew up around what hip hop culture cultivated from.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like 13 with my homies, and we're having rap battles, roasting each other, and that transpired to where I'd go home and I'd have my black side where I would be rapping with my friends, but they'd make fun of me because, white kids play guitar and I shouldn't be playing guitar. And then I go to school and I'm at a private school where it's like, I should be playing guitar because I'm in jazz band. I shouldn't be rapping because I'm white, not black.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, I constantly had to hide both sides from my friends.
Right.
And it was like, specific friend groups, I would do specific things. And it got to the point where I just kind of completely put hip hop to the side because I was doing so much with guitar because I was playing in 2 different bands.
Uh-huh.
I was constantly doing shows with friends. So I was like, all right, nobody wants me to do this anyway. and I didn't think that I really could. Like, because I listened to such great MCs back then when I was writing, I was like, I can't write like Jizza. I
Yeah.
can't write like Method Man. Like, I can't write like Redman. I can't do all of that.
Uh-huh.
So I can play guitar awesomely though, so that's good enough.
Right.
But after my last stint in a band when I was touring in Long Island, I used to sit out with my drummer, and he was kind of the main person who pushed me and was like, do what you want to do, bro. Like, if you don't want to be playing guitar and you want to rap, go do it.
Exactly.
Like, you're good. Your flow's crazy. You can spit. Like, and it's funny because he compares my rapping to my guitar playing.
Hmm.
Because he'll be like, the way that you spit is the way that you solo on guitar.
Yeah. It's kind of almost
Because
the
I'm
same language in a different way.
yeah, and I'm hugely jazz influenced. So
Uh-huh.
a lot of my tracks are like, you know, I've got horns and upright bass and all of this fun shit to where it's like I can really explore my voice.
Right.
And after the tour, it was which was when I was signed, like it sucked. They were telling me what I had to wear, what I had to play,
Yep.
and I just really didn't like it. I
Mm-hmm.
did not enjoy it at all. I enjoyed playing the shows and, you
Right.
know, doing the things that come with the tour life of getting to party and have fun, but I hated playing the music. Um, and it kind of really put a distaste for guitar in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went home and started working and cut my finger.
Mm-hmm.
So I had sliced my finger on a table saw, and
Mm.
I think it was like millimeters or something like that. I was like 0.7 millimeters from cutting off my actual finger and
Oh,
losing my
jeez.
tendon. So I had to stop playing guitar for about a year.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, that's a sign. Like, I'm going to hone in on my writing. And
Yeah.
I started writing basically every day. It was a
Uh-huh.
constant, like, I had to do at least 32 bars a day.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, I can't put out music for a year because of the contract that I was on. So I going to just write as much as I possibly can and come up with a bunch of cool plans. And I was sitting with one of my friends who's sadly not a part of the company anymore, but he was the original co-founder. And we were sitting at this park, and we were doing our partaking in our fun adult activities at the park. And I was like, man, I really just want to change the world. Like, I
Uh-huh.
want to change how music is. I want to change what's going on in the music realm right now. And we can do it. We just have to put our minds to it.
Yeah.
So he was like, all right, we're going to build a team and do it. And that day we were like, what are we going to call it? Like, what should we do? And I'm a huge person. I'm really into meditating. I'm really into like spirituality and everything like that. So I was like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, we're going to meditate in the park. We're going to hang out here and we're going to talk about this and figure it out. And by the end of the night, we had come up with the name Altruistic Vision. We had come up with the idea. Right now, we're a collective of artists, but
Mm-hmm.
our end goal is to be a label
Uh-huh.
that isn't really more of a label, just more of like a promotion company for artists.
Right.
And, you know, I run training camps where it's like I teach you how to perfect your craft. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when I do shows on rehearsal weeks, like I said, I put my artists through hell week. They hate that shit.
Yeah.
Um, because we're rehearsing our songs constantly, and it's like me, I go for jogs and rap while I'm running to be able to get that breath control. And it's like I can teach people how to do things like that and how to become a better trained artist. Like,
Right.
people don't realize that the dude who's spinning his bass around his neck practiced that
Mm-hmm.
and got smacked in his face at least 10 times before he got it.
Right.
And I wanted to be able to show people that anybody could do it. And that was about uh, just over a year and a half ago that we coined the idea and everything like that. My first show with Altruistic Vision was right before COVID had, well, I think COVID had like just hit by then. It was February
Yeah.
28th, 2020.
Yeah, it was
Um,
still like in the news, but it hadn't really like gotten a hit because I think it was almost a month later. Like, I think it was like March
yeah,
18th or 16th that like everything shut down. I still remember watching TV and watching the NBA and just everybody leaving the stadium. So like everybody go home. And they just said the NBA is suspended indefinitely. And that was the most eeriest thing that I've seen. I've obviously never really experienced, but like that was just the eeriest thing of just watching that moment of like everybody just like going home. And like, oh, we just got to stop
insane.
everything. And then just like everything went for a halt. And it was just all in that whole week. Like my shows stopped, NBA, sports, like no sports. We didn't have sports for what, 4 or 5 months? Like nothing.
Was it really that short? I thought it was longer than that. It felt like forever. It felt like
it did feel like forever. But I think the NFL started a little late. Maybe I don't think they started in August. I think they maybe started like September, October. Maybe I might be wrong, but I know we did have some sports later in the year, but it was very minimal, I think.
And then we had all those problems with everybody getting COVID.
Yeah.
I remember a couple Steelers players got COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I think some Cavs players got COVID.
Even in baseball, like the big, I think it was like the Marlins. They had like a big outbreak and they like infected 2 or 3 other teams.
Their whole team?
It was like the whole team. I think it was they went into New York. They all partied the night before and like most of the team caught COVID. They didn't know and they infected like 3-4 other teams.
The rest of everybody. It was
like,
insane.
dude, like we're in the middle of a pandemic. You're going out to bars at night. Because I don't think they had NBA was the only one that really had a bubble. All the players were in a bubble, and I think there was only maybe 1 or 2 outbreaks, but they did pretty well with the bubble situation. But like I think there everything else. I think NFL did a bubble situation too, but I think they did. I think baseball, the MLB, they didn't do any bubble like quarantining or isolation. They just kind of went from state to state to state. And, I think it just got shut down for a couple weeks after that situation. I'm like, well, see, that's what happens.
Life has been like a movie for the past like 2 years. Like this whole entire thing seems like a really badly directed horror movie.
Yeah, man. I can definitely vouch for, I'm pretty sure everybody that's watching now, that I don't think anybody would think that we would experience this type of thing in our lifetime.
I definitely didn't. COVID for me, like I had so many shows planned,
mm-hmm.
and then it just ended all of them. And I'm an introvert, so for me it was like, I get to stay in the house. I don't have to leave. The government's telling me not to leave. Yes, like, and then it gets further and further down the line, and I'm like, I want to be extroverted.
Right.
But how?
Yeah, and that's the thing with me. Like, I can usually amuse myself with something. As long as I'm doing something, I can just kind of, make my mind wander and just like, I'm a cause and effect guy. So give me something that I need to like either fix or solve, and I'll be on it for hours until I solve that issue. And I think that's why like I love video production, or like trying to find out, a lot of how this show has been in production of like, okay, how do I, do interviews with people while live streaming? So I, going through searches and trying to find the best way to do this without, having laggy bad streams, and trying to, do all this stuff. Is like, I've always been a person, like a good way of like solving problems or trying to find ways to solve something. And I think that just kind of amuses me to the point where once I find out that, problem and solve it, I'm just like, yes, I accomplished something. It's almost like learning songs. Like you're constantly practicing it until you get it right.
Yeah, critical thinking is mad important.
Yeah.
Especially for like brain stimulation, because like I've been so bored. Like I got a drum set. I got all these things where I was like, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to be amazing. And I just sit here playing Switch and working now that like I'm back into work. And I'm like, man, by the time I'm home to like stimulate myself and do all this stuff, I don't even want to. And I just wasted all that time when I had all the free time in COVID, not practicing guitar, not practicing drums.
Yeah.
Just like, I was lucky enough to be able to play a lot of shows still throughout COVID. because of the places that I've been associated with being like, oh, we can do shows just as long as, we have proof that you've never had COVID, you're wearing a mask, and you pass the temp check. And we do social distancing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm really grateful for that. But I know for a fact if COVID wasn't a thing, that everything would be intensified by 1,000% at least.
Right.
And it's like, I miss the days of going to Tom and Jerry's and watching Wings and Jams and feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I miss the days of going out and being like, hey, this is going to be a good time, and I might not possibly die.
Right. Like, you always have to have a chip on your shoulder. You always have to have a chip on your shoulder and being like, I don't know where these people have been. And it's just, even before COVID, you can think of the same thing, but now it's more of, I don't know where this person's been. Like, I was in the Wawa the other day, and I'm usually not too much of a person. Like, if somebody's like right on top of me, I'm not that type of person to like get away from me. But ever since this, there's always that one person, when you're in line and somebody's like right, like on top of you, and I'm usually not the person to kind of call them out. But I give them like I give them like the look, like back the F up. But I'm like, I kind of give them like the little like turnaround thing. They don't get it, but I'm like, dude, and in this type of time, I'm just like, get away from me. Like, I don't know where you've been. I don't know, because I mean, and I don't really talk too much COVID stuff here, but at this point, you kind of have to somewhat assume everybody's caught in this thing, or you're going to eventually have it. But it's to the fact that you still have to like be on some type of, awareness of like, with where you're going, So it's crazy to think that way when, just 2 years ago, you go to a show, a packed out show with like 600 people, and you didn't care where they were like 2 hours ago. You're like, dude, just shut up and listen to the band. I don't care where you've been. Now it's like, no, I want to know where you've been because I don't want to catch what you have.
I used to hug sweaty strangers in mosh pits.
Exactly. And
Like,
I'm like, I was like, no, I am not doing that right now. I had tickets to a show for later this month, but I'm like, I got to sell the tickets because I don't like, again, I'm not scared to go. It's just, one, I have a young kid at home. I don't want to be that type of person to, be selfish and, be involved in like a big group of people. And God forbid I catch something, I don't want to bring it home to him because he can't get vaccinated. So God forbid he catches it. I don't know how he's going to react to it. So that would be on right. So he's my main, sense of importance right now. So I'm eventually just going to sell the tickets and try to see if somebody wants to just go, because I would love to see the bands, and I've seen them before. So it kind of gives me a little more incentive to be like, okay, not like I'm seeing them for the first time, but it's like to the point where it's like, okay, it's different times. It's one thing if you're going to a bar and you see somebody playing in a bar. You might only be around like, a small group of people, but if you're going to, say Electric Factory or something, you're sitting around 500-600 people, you're like, okay, it's not like you're going to be social distancing from there. You're going to be on top of people. And because nobody cares, like you're going to be shoulder to shoulder, whether you like it or not. And usually I've had my times in the pits. I've had my times in there. I'm the guy that sits in the rafters, enjoys the show now.
Yep,
and I'm just like, and I just look down at the people. I'm like, I feel bad for all you guys. You see like the crowd moving and everything. I'm like, I used to do that. I'm like, I just want to watch the show. I've gotten to that old man. I've gotten to that old man portion of my life. Like, dude, I just want to enjoy the show tonight. I don't want somebody bumping up to me. I don't need somebody kicking me in the face or punching me by an accident. I just want to enjoy the show and go home without any bumps or bruises.
I can't I'm the type of kid, like I broke my ribs in a Slayer mosh pit. I got knocked out in an Anthrax mosh pit. Like, I was a small kid in high school. Right. Like, I'm only 5'7" now, so I'm kind of small. Like, I'm tall for my height, but that's it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I'm at the point where I'm 25 and I'm too old. Like, do not pull me into the mosh pit. Do not push me, because I will turn around and I'm gonna start snapping. Like, And if I don't start snapping, my girlfriend will do it for me because she knows I'm uncomfortable.
There you go. Yeah, when we go to shows, my wife is not the person. Like, if somebody's coming towards you as a crowd surfer, she will not catch you. She's like, "Hey, you picked to go over top of me. You picked the wrong person. I am not catching you. So if you come this way, you're gonna fall." And she will have no care. And she's worse than me that when it comes to people being on top of her, like, and she knows when she's in a pit, you're gonna be dealing with some sweaty people, but she does not like it when she's like, get off me. She's that type of girl, like, hey, you need to take your distance and get off me. I know we're all, sweating to death in here, but get the hell off me.
She's a G for that. She is a G for that, and I respect her.
And like you said, like, you have your girl with you, and sometimes, like, okay, well, I have at least someone of my protection there, because if something happens, at least I know, as a man, you can protect yourself. But when you have a very, strong-willed woman next to you, okay, if I get knocked down, at least, I have somebody else to be saying, like, hey, if I get knocked down, this other person's going to come whoop that person and just knock me down.
Dude, my girlfriend is an effing badass. She's the COO of my company.
Oh,
and
nice.
She runs the social media. She's the photographer. She also is the main manager of all of the artists, so she's in charge of, like, their shows and promotion and all of that. Like,
that's
she
awesome.
Is tank. And she took me to see GZA, who's my favorite rapper. He's a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, for those who don't know. Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang.
She took me to see him, and my girlfriend's taller than me. She's 6 foot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 5'7", so you can see the height difference.
Right.
And, like, people make fun of us all the time. But if she wasn't that tall, she would not have gotten me my hat signed by GZA.
There you go. So
because she reached over everybody and was like, "Fuck you guys, my boyfriend's getting this." Like, and it was like, GZA!
Thank you, baby.
And it was like, "I'm not signing anything that's not Wu-Tang." Signs my hat and then passes it back and is like, I'm done.
Yeah, that's my girl. That's my girl that did that.
Yeah, I was like, because me and her were sitting there rapping the entire show. Like, he was looking at both of us because Jizz is my favorite rapper. I know every word to every song.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sitting there, front row, the entire show, like,
that's awesome.
Oh, snap, like, going off.
Getting hyped.
And because she's listened to it so much, she knows it.
That's awesome.
So he saw us, like, rocking out the entire show and was like, I can't not do this.
Right.
Because, like, I was wearing a Wu-Tang shirt, and when he said, like, only Wu-Tang gear, I was like, okay, like, let's go. And he just took the hat, and I was like,
that's awesome.
You are God's greatest gift, and I love you.
There you go.
You
greatest
are mine
moments.
for the rest of your life. You don't have a choice.
That's awesome. Yeah, moments like that are, like, moments you love, not only being a musician, but a fan of music and musicians that, like, take pride in people who support them. Because, we there's a lot of people out there that, say they care about the fans, but they can just treat them as, like, another number. Where there's a lot of, even in the mainstream, there are still people that, they care about their fans, and they know if they didn't have fans, they would not be, having all those rewards and top billboards and all those. But, there are some people out there that are like, thank you for giving me all this because, I'm that good. And I can care less about you guys buying or something or not. But
I think having fans is, like, the coolest thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, I have like 3 fans. And, like, it's cool because one of them actually, like, she owns her own company. And she went and made Altruistic Vision, like, trays, and she made me socks, and I had lighters. And it's like, she was like, you're just so dope that I just wanted to do it. And she did it for some of my other artists in the group, too.
That's awesome.
And it's like, you think my music's so dope that you put my face on a tray because you know that I smoke and you know that I said that I needed a tray.
It's
and you
awesome when you have those moments with people that you would, like, because you never, when you write this music, you never think, that you're going to, you write it for either specific people or a specific situation you want to hope to connect with people, but you never somewhat expect to get that connection. But when you come to, and somebody comes to you and who has deeply heard what you said in that song and got what you were talking about, and then they go to that length to really show their support. It's awesome. Like I had like, you know, one or two people that, you know, came up to me about my songs and said like, hey, I mean, I've been listening to this album for days and weeks, months, and it's just gotten me through a rough time. And I'm like, damn, that's like, you know, you don't think that you would be hitting that hard to somebody, but when somebody comes up to you and just says, you know, that I had a rough day, I put on your album and it got me in a better mood, that's like one of the biggest, you know, achievements and, you know, honors that somebody can give you, that, you know, your music is making them feel a certain way.
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling, honestly.
It really is.
It's the coolest feeling. I can't think of anything cooler than when someone's like, hey, Tim, can you perform this song? Because I love this song of yours and I want to hear it tonight. And I'm like,
really?
Yeah, I was going to anyway, which, like, I'm not telling them I was going to anyway. But, like, I only have, like, 6 songs that I can perform. So I'm like, oh, yeah, like, I can do that for you when I was going to do it anyway. But, like, you asked, so it feels good in my heart.
Well, we've come to the part of the show where we are going to do, we're going to spin the table talk wheel. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So those are watching on the podcast, obviously, you know, watching the audio versions of this, I'll kind of explain a little bit more as well. We have a spin wheel that comes on here, and there's 3 different topics. There's a top 5, a little game show called This or That, and then we have a topic question. So we're going to spin this wheel, and whatever it lands on, that's what what we're going to talk about and kind of end the show with a little bit tonight. So let's see what we get.
I really hope it's top 5.
Top 5, there you go.
Top and it is top 5. Let's go.
So we got top 5, everybody. So the top 5 that we are going to do tonight, we haven't had a top 5 in a while, so I'm stoked. So, all right. So this is good. I think we've done this before, which was, you know, it was a little hard, but we might be able to, it's going to be, I think it might be a little bit easier tonight. So we're going to break down our top 5 favorite songs. And it could be from any genre, any, you know, age of, like, you know, music. So, Tim, I'm going to, and it can go in any order. It doesn't have to be from best to worst. It just, whatever 5 you can think of. So, Tim, what's your first favorite song you have? And I know it might take a little bit of time to think. So, while you're thinking, I'll just do a little, you know, pitch of, once again, I just want to thank everybody for, you know, tuning in tonight to the show. You're watching episode 28 of Table Talk with me, your host, Anthony Irvin, aka Spoken Life. Tonight, I am honored to be talking with one of my best buds, Tim Jones. We've had a fun night talking about, you know, music industry, you know, our influences, rock in general, talking about his agency, and we haven't talked in a while, but it's been awesome keeping in touch with him. And now we are breaking down our top 5 favorite songs, and this can be either any genre, you know, from any age. So here we go. It seems like he's got his 5. So what's your first one, man?
5. Number 1 is Cream, which stands for Cash Rules Everything Around Me by the Wu-Tang Clan.
There you go. All right. So I'm going to get one favorite song. Number 5, I'm going to, because this is something that just I'm trying to think something that just pops up into my head. I'm going to say the Beatles, Twist and Shout. Because that is something I actually, when I was a kid, I didn't actually perform the song, but it was one of my first times being on a stage and performing. I was in, what was it, mate? I was in elementary school. And we had talent shows in our elementary school, and my mom and, you know, our friends, we dressed up as the Beatles. We had the whole suits, and we dressed in, like, you know, the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band gimmick.
That is awesome.
And we just went out there and did Twist and Shout. It was all, and we had, like, you know, make believe guitars and everything. We had a drummer. It was, but we were actually singing it. We weren't playing it, but we were actually singing the songs, and it was awesome. It was one of my fondest memories
That
of
is
music. So my first one is definitely "Twist and Shout" by the Beatles.
I picked Cream because that was the first Wu-Tang song that I heard.
Uh-huh.
And listening to the Wu-Tang Clan changed my whole entire preface of life in general. Like, not to get like bleak and dark, but when I was in high school, I was going through a very, very rough time. My parents didn't have the best relationship. I wasn't in the best of health, and I was just doing a lot of stupid teenager things.
Uh-huh.
And then I found the Wu-Tang Clan, and they changed my entire life. And Cream is crazy because it's like this smooth beat where you have this nice sax intro with the and then the piano going throughout it to me was just like beautiful. Like, it's so simple but so orchestral.
Uh-huh.
And then hearing Raekwon and Inspector Deck rap over that at that age was like, whoa. Like, because back then, like at that time, I was more into the stuff that was out then. Like, I was more into, like 50 Cent, Kanye West, Lil Wayne, more things that were not shown to me at that point. And then I discovered Wu-Tang Clan. And after I discovered them, I discovered Hieroglyphics and NWA and all those classic groups that, like, A Tribe Called Quest, that I completely, like, changed my whole mindset on life because of that song.
Yeah, that's cool when you have a song that kind of just hits you in that moment of life, and it just kind of has that light bulb switch that you need to just get your life back on track and just know, okay, like this is something, and that's the power of what music can do, and it just hits you, and you're just like, okay, this is what I need to do to get myself back on track. And I love when music hits people like that. I love hearing those type of stories.
Like, it's really hard to not put a bunch of Wu-Tang songs as the top 5 greatest songs, like my favorites. But like, at the end of the day, like, I listen to so much that I'm just like, all right, I can do it. There's more than just Wu-Tang. But I had to throw one in there because Cream was just, I wake up every morning and still listen to that song.
Nice.
Like, that song is what gets me through the day. That song is what gets me up and is like, all right, you can go to work because cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money, dollar bill, y'all.
So what is your second song?
My second song is Devil in a New Dress by Kanye West and Rick Ross.
Okay.
That song proved that you could put a sick-ass guitar solo in a rap song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that album, to me, that album is one of my favorite albums of all time. It comes off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And I can't remember what the sample is. It's, oh man, I used to know this, like, I think it was a Stylistics sample or something like that, but it's beautiful piano. And just Kanye speaking his heart, and in the middle of the verses, it's like Kanye does about a 32, and then there's a guitar solo, which is just like, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my god, there's a guitar solo in a rap song? Like, that to me spoke greatly because that was at a time to where, like, I was at that point between guitar and hip-hop to where that reminded me, like, you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing a guitar solo in what is known as, like, the greatest hip-hop album of the 2010s made my life as a kid because it really helped shape my idea of how I could do my music.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Again, it's awesome when you have something that hits you in that type of field to really connect with those type of songs, man. And so and as you were talking, I was trying to think of the second song that I had. So I'm going to go with a Jimmy song. And I was talking to you about it last night. I have to go with Power of Soul.
Nice.
That song, I used to, in my early years, drive with my dad because he used to, he was a teacher up in Chichester. when I was younger. So he would take me, and he would, be going to class, and I would just be, going up to Chichester. I spent a lot of time in my younger years up in Chichester, and when I would be playing basketball for Sun Valley, when we go to Chichester to play, I felt I knew almost everybody at Chichester when, Sun Valley and Chichester were like the biggest rivals, and I think they still are to this day. So it's like I was always in the middle of like, okay, I know people in Chichester, but I'm not supposed to like these people, but I'm like, I know so many people. But so my dad used to always play Power of Soul, and just that beginning, and I always go back to where he's playing it at the New Year's Eve special in New York City, I believe, with the Band of Gypsies. And it just starts so quietly. The and he just comes in and just breaks that, and then Buddy Miles with the drum beats, and he just hits that snare, and Jimmy comes in with that wailing first note, and it's amazing. That with Jimmy, made me want to listen to more of him. And then, I got into more of Are You Experienced? I dissected that album, front to back when I was a kid, because I learned, the Purple Haze, the Stone Free, everything from that album. That just was the biggest influence me growing up as a kid playing guitar. Like I wanted to be just as good as Jimmy, and I was always dissecting his videos and looking like, okay, how is he playing that? And then now that we have like slow motion stuff and YouTube, you can actually slow down the little pixels and stuff and see where his. But even then, he just is like a freak with the fretboard. And again, you can talk all night, but it's just, Jimmy all day for me. So Power Soul by Jimi Hendrix is a number 2 for me.
So I'm actually, my number 3 is a Jimi Hendrix song as well. My number 3 is Wind Cries Mary.
I got a story about that too.
For me, that I had a really strong connection with my great grandmother, and she passed away when I was young, and that was one of her favorite songs. And I'm not like big into like funerals and stuff like that. I'm not good at them at all.
Right.
I am very emotional, break down and cry type person.
Right.
So we went to the funeral, and they were playing a version of The Wind Cries Mary on the organ.
Wow.
And I was like, what is that song? Like, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, that probably would have got me too.
Went home and looked up what it was, because my uncle was like, oh, that's just a church version of Wind Cries Mary by Jimi Hendrix. And I'm like,
wow.
He has a song called Wind Cries Mary? Like, I've never heard that. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, because at that time, like, I think I'd only listened to Are You Experienced?
And I think it was from that album, too.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. It was Are You Experienced? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, like, the only one that I had, like, dived into, and I was like, man, Purple Haze is the only cool song. Like,
yeah.
That's why it wasn't that good. So then I was like, all right, well, I have it. Let me go listen to it. And was like, how?
I think that was his second or third single after Purple Haze, because I think it went Purple Haze, Hey Joe, and then Wind Cries Mary. So I think that was one of like the top 3. I think that was one of the top 3 first singles he had. And that's not knowing until later, Hey Joe was technically a cover for him, because it was somebody else's song. And I mean, I always thought it was his, but I think from, listening to tons and tons of footage about it, it was actual cover song that he played. But, so I think it was Purple Haze, Hey Joe, and Wind Cries Mary that was like his first 3 singles that came from that album. And
those chords in the intro, are just so nice. It is my favorite song to play, hands down.
Oh yeah. So I won a talent show playing that song, and that was the first time playing on stage by myself in a talent show. And I'm like, I don't know what to play, but I always had a connection with Wind Cries Mary, and I always loved playing that. And I love the solo in that. The solo in that is like so musically inspiring, and I just hit it. and I was just up there with a guitar, so I didn't have any backing band. It was just me and a guitar playing that, and I won first place. Did not expect, and third place goes to this, second place goes to this, and first place Anthony Irvin. I'm like, what? So I'm walking up, and I was very surprised. So and I feel that was like my moment of like, no, okay, I think I can actually play with bands, and it started getting me motivated to do more with it. So yeah, that's always a story I tell. Wind Cries Mary. And it was cool how you brought up Wind Cries Mary, because I love that song too. There's so many Hendrix songs that I love, but Wind Cries Mary is definitely a favorite of mine.
I could honestly probably put Wind Cries Mary as my number one favorite song, but at the same time, like, Prince is my favorite artist ever.
Yeah.
So, like, all of his songs are going to just be, like, top, like, I'm not going to say what it is now since we're not at number, like, one yet, but, like, obviously, like, Prince is going to be my number one.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows me already is like, oh, I probably know what it is.
It's coming. So, a number 3 for me, I think I'm going to have to probably go a little bit different with this. I'm going to have to probably go a City and Color song, Dallas Green. And I actually play this song, and it's called Waiting. And when I first listened to it, like, I love the lyrics to it, and then listening to live versions of him playing it, I love his explanation of it, of what it's basically about. He's like, I take it as because he always, like, people are always like, well, why are you always so depressed when you're singing about, like, depressed? He's like, I'm not depressed. It's more of a happy-go-lucky song about dying. It's more the fact that, I mean, we're all gonna eventually die, so just be happy. So it's like a happy-go-lucky version of just dying, but it's the lyrics don't make it sound depressing. It's more of like of something to be like uplifting, to be like, it's okay to think those things. We're all eventually going to do it, so you might as well just live in the now and just live every day to the fullest. So that's the way I take of it. So I love the meaning behind it.
That's gorgeous. That is gorgeous.
So I think we're both into our 4th.
Number 4 now, right?
Usually the 4th and 5th are usually getting pretty tough.
So I already know my number, like my 5 or 1, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say November Rain by Guns N' Roses.
There you go.
The guitar solo on that song is one of my favorite guitar solos ever. Just because of, like, Slash coming out with the soul, like, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Man, the first time I heard that shit was mind-blowing. And then seeing it live.
Like, I can imagine that.
It was my dream to go see Guns N' Roses live. And at the time, I was dating this girl who took me to go see them. And, like, it was funny as shit because she tried to kiss me during the November Rain solo. And I was like, look, I'm watching Slash right now.
Don't ruin this moment for me.
And, like, like, now in retrospect, I kind of feel bad that was an a-hole move because she bought me the tickets as a surprise for my birthday. We were 5th row. But, like, come on, I have a Slash tattoo.
Out of all the times.
You can't take me to see Slash and expect me to not want to stare at Slash.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was in the middle of the first solo when he, like, the bends on that song.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
And then going into the second solo where he's like, wow, now, wow, wow, like, mesmerizing. And to hear live was just the coolest shit ever. And it, like, I could have died that night and been completely happy. Like, I got to see every song that I've wanted to. And, like, I could switch out November Rain for Rocket Queen. Just because that's my favorite guitar riff of all time. And, like, my favorite song to play live, just because I love the slide solo and the ending solo. But November Rain has to take it, because it's just a all-around better song.
Yeah, man.
And, like, oh, God, those ending solos. Use Your Illusions 1 and 2 were the greatest fucking albums from Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, man. They were. I mean, like I said, I wasn't the biggest Guns N' Roses fan, but I was definitely into that whole era of like the classic rock slash guys, and just the classic guys that had that hard beating Axl Rose singer with a killer guitar player and like the full rock sound. And so like I said, I never got to see them live, but I did see Velvet Revolver. So I did see Slash live. I saw him and Scott Weiland. I think it was Scott Weiland. He was still in the band at the time. So I do remember I went with my uncle and we saw them at the Spectrum. So that was an awesome time. And again, like
I got to see Guns N' Roses do Slither.
nice.
I literally broke down and was like, I wish I could see Scott. I wish I could see him do this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, he was amazing.
To me, was what I wanted Guns N' Roses to be.
Right.
Like, I felt like Velvet. Like, I love Guns N' Roses to the death of me, but I felt like Velvet Revolver was the better version of Guns N' Roses because Scott's vocals compared to Axl's, like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I love Axl, but Scott is like my favorite frontman in rock and roll.
Yeah.
There's not a person who could compete with him other than like Chris Cornell, in my opinion.
Yeah. Right.
So, like, because I've saw Stone Temple Pilots.
Nice.
And it was like the greatest shit ever. And then seeing them again, I got to see them with Chester singing.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, man, I miss Steve.
It's crazy when you're watching something and you don't understand the significance of what you're watching until later down the line. You're like, I was witnessing something that I didn't even understand what I was witnessing at the time. Like, listening to Velvet Revolver live and everything that happened to Scott Weiland and him passing is like one of the only times like I really got to see him, and seeing like a legendary performer like him that, I guess, I mean, I'm sure many people saw, but some people, again, just like anything, don't get to see a lot of their favorite bands play. So I sometimes forget that I've seen Velvet Revolver, but usually, when you were talking about Slash seeing Guns N' Roses, I'm like, I do remember I did see Velvet Revolver at the Spectrum, and that's when they just came out with their first album. So I heard Slither, I heard all like the the singles and everything. It was awesome.
I'm a huge, like, as you can see by the tattoo, I'm a huge Slash fan. So I've seen Slash in all of his renditions.
That's
I got
awesome.
to see Slash with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. I've seen Slash's Snake Pit. I've seen Guns N' Roses, and I've seen Slash do acoustic stuff.
That's cool.
Which, like, it was really weird. It was really weird, but it was really cool because it was him and Miles Kennedy. And Miles Kennedy, for those who don't know, is the singer of Alter Bridge. But he also is a guitarist.
And Slash still rips on acoustic too.
Yeah, like, and Miles, Slash will tell you that like Miles is a better guitarist than him. They'll sit there and battle on who's better. Because Miles would be like, I can't do what Slash does. Like, I can't fucking do that. And Slash would be like, man, he's such a fucking crazy technical player that he's just better. And seeing them together was insane because they're doing Slash songs, they're doing Snake Pit songs, and Guns N' Roses songs.
Uh-huh.
So while Slash is doing his solos, Miles is doing all of Izzy's parts and all of the other parts that Slash wrote for the Snake Pit stuff and for the Conspirator stuff. And seeing them together doing that was mind-blowing. Like, seeing other people obsess over Slash the way that I do when they're famous was like cool as shit because the whole entire time he's just like, I'm here with Slash. I'm here with Slash. And I'm like, you're Miles Kennedy.
Yeah.
Like, I would die to be able to sing like you and play guitar like you, and you were freaking out over the fact that you're touring with Slash.
Right.
Like, that's just so cool.
It's cool when you see musicians like that, idolize other big musicians, and they just, they admire, the craft, like how you were saying, like, Kennedy was saying, I can never do what Slash does. Slash is saying, well, he's this type of, like, they both admire what they both do, and they just they connect both and they make great music together. So it's awesome when musicians can support other musicians that are on somewhat of the same level and they just love the craft of somebody.
It comes with the love of the craft, I think. Like, if you
Mm-hmm.
actually love what you're doing and aren't in music for the money,
Yeah,
then everybody's gonna love you, and you're gonna love everybody.
absolutely, man. I can't agree with that more.
Because, like, I just love the art. I just love the music. So for me, it's like, whether you're coming out with something that I think might be like whack or not, I'm still gonna be like, it's music and I love it.
Absolutely.
Like, I am very judgmental on mainstream music because, like, it's mainstream music, we can be. But, you know, unless somebody's really, 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 really terrible, I'm probably going to love it just because it's music and it's art.
Right. Exactly. Anybody that kind of, and like we were saying in the beginning, I mean, you're not going to get everybody that likes you. There's going to be people that don't like somebody, but in the same fact, they're up on a stage playing in front of X amount of people. The person that says, "Oh, well, this guy's not very good," I say to them all the time, like, "Why don't you get up there and do the same thing?" "Oh,
Yep.
no, I can't do that." Okay, then
Exactly.
shut up.
You can't.
This dude is expressing himself up there, and he's trying to pour out any type of emotion. So for you to say like, "Oh, well, he can't do that. He's not that great." He's great to some extent. You just it may not be what you want to hear, but it's great to so many more people in this room. So can it?
Exactly. Kiss my biracial booty.
Yeah. So number 4 for me, Metallica's "Seek and Destroy." So
Nice.
my first band, we
I
used to
will
end our
drink
sets.
water to that.
There you go. And I will have a sip of my beverage for that. My old band, we used to end our set with that, and we used to get everybody, circle pitting and going crazy with those. And it was the one and only Metallica song that we would cover, but we had like the whole metalheads and everybody going out for that, and everybody would start like, circle pitting and everything. And we got so much into it because we thought we were going to be the next Metallica. And we're just like, yeah, we're getting out here, blah, blah, blah. But we're playing, our local area. But we had 2 main stage Trocadero shows, and we sold like over 200 tickets.
That's sick.
And we had a lot of bands that were on our bills that were selling mad tickets as well. We had almost 1,000 people at a show before, out of all the bands. And and it was, I think at the time where a lot more people were more eager to go to shows, and we had a good following too. I think if we still would have kept together, and we had our own ways of partying, but I still feel if we were still together to this day, we would have been doing U.S. tours, or at least some type of East Coast mid U.S. tours and everything, because I think we were that good. Yeah, and we were getting into a new level of our music. It's just sometimes we I think it was just more of like a musical directions we wanted to go. They wanted to go one way, I wanted to stay like a certain way, and we just couldn't meet in the middle about it.
Man, that's like the worst feeling, because that's how Sour Potatoes had their ending, just because everybody wanted to do something different. And it was like we were all ridiculously talented, and actually it wasn't everybody wanted to do something different. The bassist wanted to do something different, me and the drummer wanted to stick on the same thing, and it was just like we were really crazy at what we did, because we were all in jazz band together, we all loved metal, and we all loved funk.
Mm-hmm.
So like bringing all of that together, you're like, come on, this is ultimate, like we're killer. But then everybody's young and has egos.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
like the worst part of being young.
I think egos are like the biggest thing when it comes to young bands, because they feel, oh, their band's better than this band and this band's better than that. But at the end of the day, it's like we're all doing the same, that we all want the same goal. So it's we should all be banding together instead of trying to compete. But I feel especially in around here, I say this a lot on the show with some people, I don't see many young kids in bands anymore, right? As much as they were when I was young. Like when I was in high school, being in a band was very meaningful. But like I feel today, and in different times, but I feel today like I don't see many people coming at it who are in high school that are forming bands, and it doesn't matter what, like rock, funk, anything. I feel like being in a band isn't as cool in high school these
Everybody
days.
wants to do producing now, and like everybody is in
Yeah,
that aspect of when it's like, oh, I can just use the computer. Like I don't need to learn how to play instruments. So half of these people can't be in bands.
absolutely. I wanted to pull something up from the comments. Kate says, I think something artists have to accept also is everyone might not vibe with your stuff either. Kate, I can't agree more. That I mean,
It's my girlfriend. Hi, babe.
hello. And I agree. I mean, you got to accept that you're not going to get everybody's positive side of your music, and that you're not going to win everybody over. But the people who
Oh, yeah.
continue to, vibe with you or buy your albums, buy your merch, come to your shows, those are the ones that are going to keep spreading the word to you. And, if you continue to stick on that path of thinking about the positives and try not to put too much inkling into the negatives of people saying what negative things people may say about you, the positives are always going to outweigh the negatives.
I always say that people talking smack is my favorite sound.
And
Because,
in this day and age, you get more haters, the more exposure you get anyway. So
exactly. So it's like people are gonna talk smack regardless. So you might as well just take it with a grain of salt, brush it off your shoulder, and move on.
right. So we got one more each. So we got 5. I pretty much know what you're gonna probably know what you're gonna say. I know what artist. I may not know the song, but I know the artist. So let's hear it.
You want to guess it before I say it?
Purple Rain.
Yeah, you're right.
There you go.
You're 100% right. Purple Rain is the epitome of what music should be.
I've never
Great.
seen the full Prince movie, but I've seen bits and parts. I gotta watch the whole thing from front to back, though.
I love the movie. It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Morris Day and the Time is in it, and I love the time.
Uh-huh.
But for me, the song Purple Rain it's just like, all right, the album itself is fantastic. Like, I could put really any of the songs on that album at my number one. Like, Computer Blue is one of my favorite Prince songs, just because of, like, the musicality of it. And then The Beautiful Ones, like, I cry hearing that, so I don't listen to it often.
Little Red Corvette is a really good song, too, for me, too.
And, like, I will fight to the death of this. Prince is the best songwriter, artist, guitarist, person, whatever you want to call him. He's the best.
He produced everything.
His first album, he was 17 and played all 27 instruments on it, produced all of it, wrote all the music himself, taught the band how to play the songs, went on tour and played live.
And again, that's not many people know that. Like, I didn't know that he wrote the score to the 1986 Batman movie. Or 89. He did the actual theme, and I'm like, now that you like hear the influence, I'm like, oh, that's Prince all over.
And then he had his whole own Batman album.
Oh yeah, and I was like, and when you hear it later, you're like, oh, that's Prince all over that stuff. And again, he plays the whole, like playing the bass, guitars, singing, everything. The dude was a freak, talented musician.
He is my number one musical inspiration, and the only reason that I still play instruments and incorporate that into what I do, because he is the epitome of carefree living life how the way he wants to. Like, he will come into the show and take your girlfriend home wearing high heels and a dress, and what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah,
nothing, because he's Prince. And I remember when he died, I broke down. I was not okay for a week, because he was the one artist that I had left on my bucket list of favorites to see. And I was like, I need to see Prince. I need to see Prince. I need to see Prince. And now I'm never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to live how I feel Prince would want me to live, because energy does not die, can't be destroyed nor created. So he's here in the universe,
Oh yeah,
and he knows that I love him.
absolutely. I totally agree with that statement, man. I mean, even though they may not be here in person, they're always spiritually looking down, no matter what. And just like Prince and Jimmy, their presence will always be around as long as their music is still around. And there's always going to be somebody that discovers them and just wishes, and then there's going to be that person like, oh, you should have seen them when they were alive, man. It was a vibe. And, it's definitely tragically sad that he was taken, so unexpectedly, because I don't think anybody's seen that coming. And especially I know I didn't. I did not expect that. Because I thought of him as like one of those. I thought of him as like the Keith Richards of like him living forever and like and him like writing music up until his dying day, which he did, I'm sure. But like him living until he'd be running when he's like in wheelchairs and But it's tragic when your idols pass, because we think of these people as we forget they're human. But we so idolize these people, and we forget they're humans. We think they're so bigger than just a human. But then when you break them down, they're just like you and me, and they they breathe the same air as us. They get up and go to sleep just like and it's just they may just have a little bit more of a reputation than the normal person. But it's one to leave a mark on your name when you pass, and I think he's definitely left an impact on the music industry and people who know his music. And now it's coming out more the fact that he wrote for so many people that many people don't even realize. I know I didn't know how much he wrote for other people, and that's even more of the genius that he wrote for other people.
He is literally he was literally like the most undercover greatest person ever. He would take money out of his royalties from, I think it was Graffiti Bridge. I can't remember if it was Purple Rain or Graffiti Bridge. But he would take them and then use that to fund art schools and music schools in Minnesota. And wouldn't say shit to anybody. Like, nobody knew any of this thing about him until he died. And his, like, family came out and was like, oh, man, like, now we can't do this because Prince is dead. Like, he used to take so much money and put it to art programs and music programs, and he would train artists, and it's like, if you got the stamp of approval from Prince, then you knew you were the shit.
Right.
And I needed that stamp of approval from Prince.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I spent my early artist years in development and, like, on touring being like, one day I'm going to play with Prince. And I have to impress Prince. I don't give a shit about impressing anybody else in the world. Everybody else can go F off. I want to impress Prince.
Right.
And it's like, I'm never going to know now.
Right.
And that's upsetting.
It is. I can understand that.
All right, so I got Purple Rain is the greatest guitar solo in the world.
Which one is that?
The guitar solo from Purple Rain.
Oh, yeah, dude. It and especially when he plays it live and just kind of draws it out, it's like you're just in that moment. You're just like, this is amazing what I'm hearing.
I cry.
And so I have one more, and I'm gonna go with John Mayer, because he's definitely some like
I love
for our era, John Mayer. I've become a bigger John Mayer fan over the last couple years, and because I mean I got to go with Continuum, because I started listening to him once Continuum came out. Continuum is his best album. I don't care what anybody says. I'm sure I'll have people agree with me, disagree with me. Continuum, best album, and he's had some good albums. I love the new album. I love his album before, but Continuum is his best work. I gotta say, that's the
one with Neon and Slow Dancing in the Burning Room, right?
Slow Dancing in the Burning Room, and that is my actual song. Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. I love that song.
That's hilarious, because that is my favorite John Mayer song.
There you go. I love that song. Just the way it's just speechless in a way because somebody that just has that type of thought process and taking and knowing that I've learned a little bit more about theory, breaking it down from a theory standpoint. It's just like the dude is on another level with his guitar playing, and especially with a new album. This is a guy that comes from a big R&B blues type of thing, and then he comes out and makes an 80s like rock inspired album just out of nowhere. He's just like,
Amazing.
hey, this is what, and he said like this is what I've wanted to kind of put out for years, but just and he just throws it out there. It sounds nothing like his old stuff, but it has his signature sound in there. But I love I love pretty much almost every song on that new album, and I'm glad he put a lot of the singles that he's had over the last 2 years that he's been putting out a couple singles here and there, but he put them all on this album, and just it was a solid album. But yeah, Continuum will always be the staple beginning parts of me listening to John Mayer, and the songs that had Daughters and Neon and all those. I mean, they're great songs, but I think obviously what got him on the map was Continuum. And that whole LA concert, if you haven't listened to the LA concert,
that's what I was literally about to say.
That whole show.
As a guitarist, he's my favorite guitarist of our generation.
Yeah, same.
If you talk guitarists out of the 2000s, I don't care about Sinister Gates because John Mayer's gonna blow him out the water. I don't care that he can sweep pick. I don't care about any of that.
My dad's never been a fan of people that can play fast. He's like, you can play as many notes as quick as possible because it's not about how many notes you can pick. It's what notes you pick.
I say that to people all the time because I don't know how to sweep pick because I've never wanted to learn. I never
wanted to be the fastest person, and I always like writing a melody type solo more than trying to see how many notes or how fast I can play a guitar solo. If it has a feel and groove and vibe, that's like I said, we come from the John Mayers, the Hendrixes, Eric Claptons, that they weren't fast. Jimi Hendrix wasn't even really a fast player. He just knew what notes to pick.
Exactly. Clapton's literal nickname was Slowhand.
Right.
To me, the best guitarists are the ones who know when not to play.
Yeah. And that's the hardest thing. You would think just don't, but it's the hardest thing to do. Because when you're playing, you just think, okay, I just gotta, keep on playing because you're thinking pentatonic, do this, but then you think, like you just said, there's times where it's okay not to play and wait for that next moment to hit because you're waiting for that chord change to come up or waiting for this. So it's okay to take a 2-second breather to make sure to, so it's dissecting solos and everything. And John Mayer hits it out,
Yeah, literally. I love the studio version of Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, but that LA version.
Oh, yeah.
When he does, the first solo is sick, but the second one where it starts with the, we're near, hearing that live with that tone was that was just disgusting.
Yeah.
I would much rather be able to play the way John Mayer plays than be able to play that somebody Sinister Gates or Kirk Hammett plays.
Right.
Because to me, that's where the soul is. That's where the meaning is. That's where you're going to get the goosebumps.
Yeah.
All that shredding shit's cool.
Right.
It's impressive. You're talented. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But can you make me feel something?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where the difference gets cut off. You're those type of thing. When you're the Kirk Hammett's, Sinister Gates, Dimebag Darrell's, R.I.P. He a great guitar player, but they have moments where you're like, oh man, that was an awesome thing what they did. But when you hear something that Clapton, Hendrix, Pink Floyd, anybody, they make you feel something during those things. Every note they play is making you feel something. So it's a difference when it comes to those different styles of play. Like the feel and vibe of those is way different in those. But like you hit it on the nail that you're like, I want to feel something when I'm hearing a solo. I don't necessarily always care about how fast it's being played, because you can fake your way through a fast solo sometimes, but when you're playing something that has like consistent notes that you have, like it can be tough.
I love when people try to be like, oh, the blues is so lame because they're just playing so slow and doing like only like BB King was the king of ghost notes.
They didn't call him king for nothing.
Exactly. And it's like, it upsets me that like guitarists nowadays don't have an appreciation for that. Like everybody has to do that tapping and the double plucking with their thumb and like all this crazy shit. And I'm like, it's impressive. It's fantastic.
There's time and places for that.
Yeah, like
right.
You can't expect, and like this is just me as a guitarist, like you can't expect all guitarists to think that because you can do that, you're like, all that in a bag of chips.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you have people like Peter Frampton. Like, he revolutionized the talk box.
Mm-hmm.
When he came out with Do You Feel Like We Do, like, obviously I wasn't alive, but I know that it revolutionized music and how people use the talk box, because a lot of people didn't really use it before then. Like, yeah, you had Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith where Joe Perry used it in the intro. But before Frampton, like, he does it for Solo Fest. He had the talk box, and he stayed in the pocket ridiculously.
Yeah.
Like, and the way that he did it was so meticulous that it's like, if you were to go and try to sweep and shred through his songs, it would sound ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel like a lot of music is. Like, they sit here and try to add all of this stuff, and I'm like, you're just doing too much. You're so not focused on, like, being a show off, but you're not worried about what fits in the song.
Yeah.
Like AC/DC's drummer, everybody wants to make fun of him because almost every song sounds the same.
Yeah.
But they kicked ass.
Mm-hmm. They knew how to write a kick-ass song.
Exactly, and it's just about making, like, I'm all for artistry and doing whatever you want to do, but, like, when it comes to guitarists, there's not enough of an appreciation for those who don't shred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, people are like, oh, if you can't shred, you're not a good guitarist. And I'm like, that's just disrespectful, because
there's so many.
I know a lot of people who don't shred who blow me out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you got that, dog. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. But yeah, man, this has been a hell of a time. I had so much fun talking to you about, music, what you've been up to lately. I'm stoked to, see the growth of your company, and hopefully more artists come your way and you can inspire more people to be doing what they love. And again, this was our top 5. Let us know what your top 5 is in the comments. If you're watching this later, or if you're watching this on repeat, let us know in the comments. Tim, is there anything else before we get out of here? Anything you want to promote? Anywhere? Where can people check you out? Anything you want to just say before we get out of here, man?
I am going to be dropping an album very soon. It's called Dark Shades, because I love sunglasses. Usually I'm always wearing sunglasses. This is actually like one of the first interviews and talk shows that I've done where I'm not wearing sunglasses. And that shows that I'm comfortable with you, because like, I know you and you're my homie, so it works out.
There you go, man.
I do have some shows coming up. You can check all of them out on the Altruistic Vision page on Instagram and Facebook. All of our news is posted there. Most of my personal artist news is posted there, just because I'm not very good at social media. So as you can see next to my name below me, which I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to be like, look below. You can follow me on my Instagram, the Tizza, which is where I post funny memes and talk about my music. But that's really it for me. Come follow Altruistic Vision. Follow me on Instagram. If you find my Twitter, you'll enjoy that because I'm hilarious. and Dark Shades will be coming out in probably about like less than a month.
There you go, guys. Well,
First
keep
album, guys.
keep an eye out for Tim's stuff. He's going to be dropping a lot of stuff, so I'm looking forward to hearing it, and I hope you guys are too. This has been Table Talk, episode 28, guys. Thank you all for joining me tonight, and thank you all for the continued views. And make sure you guys, once again, are subscribing, following, and give us a review on Apple Podcast. Tim, it was a pleasure talking to you tonight, and I will be talking to you soon, brother. Have a good night. All right.
See you very soon, boss.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.